I think he has to work hard to try to split these issues out, because they're not the same. I understand why he answered the question the way he answered it, but I think the education programme here has to be about how these things are actually different.
Where are we at with the chapter of John Swinney as First Minister? Is this a new era? Have we turned a corner? Are we clear on what Swinney vision is and what it means for the people of Scotland?
Yes and no. I think he's been quite clear that he wants to place, economic growth at the top of his agenda, and that's been evidenced in his visit to Aberdein, where the Scottish National Investment Bank and the UK Investment Bank combined to provide a £100 million loan to get that facility up and running to support renewables. Yesterday we had Mary Calum visiting Sumitomo, Japanese cable manufacturer, again with that kind of green industrialisation point. So that's a good sign of intent. I think you played the clip earlier on for the other side of the balance sheet, though, that we're still kind of getting bogged down in the issue of what is a woman. That issue's clearly not going away. I would wager he's going to need a better articulation than that. There are significant issues around housing, health and education that are still there, haven't gone anywhere. So I think we need to give him a little bit of time and be fair to get his feet under the table. I'm still looking forward to a good stump speech from John about, yes, things are going to be different, and then evidencing what are the policy directions that he's going to take to make things different. And so, let's give him a bit of space. And I think that's only fair once you've only been in office for a week. So I'd say there's some good things, but clearly some challenges as well, as we all know.
And Andy, how do you feel about, I suppose, the tone of his approach to some of these challenges? Do we feel like we're getting enough from John Swinney? He's done a whole number of interviews over the last few days. He's been quite obvious, if you like. He's been in the media. He's been on these visits. Is this what he should be doing? And what else should he be doing?
I think he's getting the tone right. I mean, he needs to help this government rediscover its political radar because it's lost it. And he needs to bring the government back to not only focusing on issues that people care about, but actually being on the right side of those issues as well. And I think tonally, he's doing really well. I mean, John Swinney is a very experienced, very articulate guy who I think, will have, for your average person out there, I think they will absolutely give him a chance. Now, I think he's saying all the right things, as Geoff said. The big question is, what will the action be on the back of it? He has said, and it's obviously very welcome, he said that economic growth is central. Well, that's fine. But we know what's needed to actually grow the economy. And part of that, for example, is the reversal of so-called progressive taxation, which I was schooled by a series of self-important left-wing academics on Twitter last week as to what progressive taxation meant. The outcome, I think, to which was progressive taxation is the type that doesn't raise any money. And he's going to have to put action next to his words on these things. So, for example, this economy needs substantial cuts in income tax. It needs a reversal of the damaging increases in income tax that we've had. We saw today in the newspapers today, in the Herald this morning, another story about this massive, unfathomable scale of investment in housing that is sitting on the sidelines because it is seen as a hostile environment to build in, especially in the private rented sector. So rent caps have to be scrapped. These are things that have to happen to reinvigorate the economy. So you can talk the talk on economic growth, and that's better than not, right? That's good. But you've got to walk the walk on it as well. And I just think we don't know. I think the short answer to the question is we just don't know yet how big a change it's going to be.
I played a short bit of his interview with BBC Radio Scotland in which he was asked, what is a woman? Now, I struggle sometimes with this because we have already touched on issues around the economy, these sorts of the health service, education, etc., these sorts of big fundamental challenges. But it is interesting that this question is one that can really derail a politician's week. And I think in the interest of fairness, I'm going to play 36 seconds of it, so the kind of full exchange of John Swinney on BBC Radio Scotland, just for the context.
Do you believe that a trans woman is a woman? I believe a woman is an adult female born as a woman, and I also accept that transgender women are defined as women.
I just wonder, though, what you say to women who've been campaigning to protect women's rights, who believe that a lot of the policies that, to this point, the Scottish Government has been following threaten the rights and the safety of women and girls.
Well, I want to do nothing that threatens the safety of women and girls, and I will do nothing to threaten the safety of women and girls.
So that's the kind of full exchange, and that's where the conversation then moved on, Andy. Has this derailed his week? It certainly became a real talking point when it happened on Monday, when that conversation was happening. And it's definitely an issue. The issue of trans rights is definitely one that John Swinney has to grapple with in the aftermath of the Gender Recognition Reform Bill, in the aftermath of the Butte House Agreement and the Greens' kind of level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the particular direction of travel of the Scottish Government. What do you make of what Swinney said?
I don't think anybody would envy him in having to answer that question, because it's a very difficult question. Can we just separate this very quickly out into two different things? One, he's got major issues inside his government, inside his party on this issue, and as he has been doing ever since he announced he was going to challenge for SNP leadership, he's having to balance both sides, and it's not particularly easy. And that answer was really, to be honest, a balance of both sides of that debate. I think what he is going to have to figure out a way to do is to explain in simple terms that the question about the right of people to be transgender is not the same question as the one about the safety of women and girls. They're different. Most people don't really care that much whether or not an adult wishes to transition from one gender to another. People aren't really bothered about that, to be honest with you. The issue is that parts of the legislation risked making women unsafe, and large aspects of what we already practice outside of this legislation. It's nothing to do with the legislation. Large parts of what we already practice are putting girls, because it is overwhelmingly girls, putting young, very young girls at significant lifelong risk as a result of gender-affirming care. So I think he has to work hard to try to split these issues out, because they're not the same. I understand why he answered the question the way he answered it, but I think the education programme here has to be about how these things are actually different.
Thank you so much for watching. Press subscribe and you'll get all the best videos offering insight on Scottish politics delivered straight to your feed. Press subscribe and stick around. And if you'd like to hear our conversations in full, open up your podcast app and search for Holyrood Sources.